Hi, welcome to the Israel First television program with myself, Martin Blackham, and with my wife, Nathalie Blackham. Great to have you with us. Thank you so much for joining us today. We're in the midst of the ceasefire still, and although there's still skirmishes, and by the way, there's still terrorism sadly happening in Israel. We had a terrorist attack yesterday in the Gush Etzion area, Gush Etzion Junction, in fact.
But it's interesting what you say, because when I got up this morning, I'm like, oh, by the way, we don't have any more alarm.
But what's happening in the background, because I know that you're watching today because you want to know not just what the mainstream media are telling you, but what's really happening in the background of Israel, what's happening on the ground. Well, reports are coming in, Nathalie, that Iran is smuggling advanced weapons into Judea and Samaria. In a worrying development in Israel, Iran has significantly escalated its efforts to arm terrorist entities in Judea and Samaria in place of Gaza. Now, you will remember on previous programs we've talked about the release of terrorists, 2,000 terrorists being released into Judea and Samaria. In recent months, Iran has quietly smuggled advanced weaponry, not just basic weaponry, according to Israeli intelligence centers and regional analysts quoted in Washington. The goal, according to the sources, is to transform the area into a Gaza-style, listen to that, Judea and Samaria, into a Gaza-style terrorist hub capable of replicating the October the 7th terrorist attack. Following the ceasefire between Israel and Hamas last month, Islamic Jihad has shifted its operations focus to Judea and Samaria. Basically, Gaza, for logistical reasons for the terrorists, is not working. So whilst they still have operational tunnels, that's about it. They don't really have, and they do have terrorists in the tunnels. They are limited as to what they can do. So they've shifted their focus to Judea and Samaria. Whilst Islamic Jihad remains the most active Iranian proxy in cities such as Hebron, Shechem, Jenin and Jericho, it has been joined by factions of the Al-Aqsa Martyrs Brigade, the Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine, and Hamas's local cells, 28 groups in total, according to the Foundation for Defense of Democracies.
Now we have to understand that if the octopus has a head with cut, there is another head who is growing, and it's exactly what you are saying.
Like the monster, Mezuzah monster, from the times of Noah. Now, these terror groups have acquired weaponry previously unseen in Judea and Samaria, including explosive drones, anti-tank missiles, rocket-propelled grenades, and advanced rockets. The Mir Amit Intelligence and Terrorist Information Center reported that Hamas had declared that Judea and Samaria will continue to be a leading area of resistance. Now, many of you may not be aware of this, but Hamas isn't limited to Gaza. Hamas is an organization, whilst it was in charge of Gaza for many years, it is an organization that has groups in many Judean and Samarian Arab towns. In fact, I remember Nathalie and I were once in Israel, and we saw one of the Arab towns which was nowhere near Gaza with the Hamas flags up. So Hamas is an organization with groups throughout Israel. So it's not just limited to Gaza. That's very important for you to know. Now,
it was in the north. It was Foredi, and it was in the north, close to south of Haifa, but it was around that area.
Recent IDF operations have intercepted Iranian armed shipments. So this isn't just theory. This is what's happening, including a drone carrying 10 guns from Jordan. They're bringing things in by drone from Jordan, and an October delivery for Iran's Quds forces containing 15 anti-tank missiles, 29 explosive charges, 4 armed drones and assorted firearms. Iran is now funneling weapons through Jordan and Lebanon. These borders are both very close to Israel and are made, or they are available for drones. It's very a useful tool for them to bring in weapons. Now, in February 2025, earlier this year, the beginning of the year, the IDF disrupted a plot from joint Hamas Islamic Jihad Al-Aqsa Martyrs Brigade Command Center in the Nur Shams refugee camp. Terrorists had planted, that they weren't thinking about it or planning, they had actually put explosives on Israeli buses targeting civilians in 5 locations across cities. A timing error led to premature detonation, allowing Israeli forces to neutralize the remaining charges. So these things are happening, and that's putting Israel and Israeli citizens in great danger, and not just those in Judea and Samaria, but I mean it affects the whole country if terrorists are still active in other parts of the country and not just Gaza.
Yeah, and Judea and Samaria, you need to know, is like when you look at the map of Israel, they are in the middle, and they are from the north to the south, is the mountain of Israel. I will speak a bit about it later on. So Samaria is on the north of Jerusalem, and Judea is in the south. So we know there was the 2 kingdoms after with Solomon, and there was Judea, south of Jerusalem, and all the tribes from Samaria was exiled, and it was the north of Jerusalem. So we will speak a bit more later on about it.
Now, meantime, the United States is considering plans to build a large military base on the Israeli-Gaza border, Shomrin reports. We've talked about the United States involvement in Israel with hundreds of troops coming here. The 500 million sites will be capable of, that's a huge sum of money really, capable of housing thousands of United States soldiers. Critics concerned about large numbers of American soldiers being stationed on Israeli soil. We have talked about the danger of foreign soldiers being involved in Israel. This is not something that's ever worked out well for Israel. In history, the United States is planning to build a huge military base in Israel's Gaza border region, according to an exclusive report by Shomrin. That's an organization who we've dealt with and spoken to, and who are looking to protect Israeli sovereignty. Israeli officials familiar with the preliminary plans say the facility will be used to help maintain the ceasefire and could accommodate several thousand soldiers. As I say, it's roughly 500 million, and they're in advanced discussions with the IDF and Israeli government regarding locations in the Gaza periphery. Now, during the war with Hamas, many, and maybe very foolishly, many Israeli people who are interested in sovereignty, those who are looking to see Israel restored to its full area, biblical area, have been looking to move into Gaza. Some actually have tried to, for Shabbat, have Shabbat in Gaza, and have tried that and have been turned back, or have had it near the border. And many have had dreams of returning. We've talked on previous programs about Gush Kativ, which was
before 2005.
There was a group of Israeli villages or towns in Gaza in the past which were forcibly removed by the Israeli government, a disastrous thing which has led to the current situation. And a lot of people have been looking to return. So for them, that now it's an international area that American troops and indeed other countries' troops are coming to maintain the ceasefire is deeply troubling. And I think it should be deeply troubling to all Bible believers, because this is not what should be the result. When Israel has a war, it should be gaining ground, not giving ground away
for international
purposes. Now, security sources have told Shomrim that the move represents a major shift in United States engagement. It's hard to overstate the significance of building such a base, one official said. Since the Six-Day War, Israel has sought to minimize international involvement in its areas. The establishment of an American base shows how determined Washington is to be involved in Gaza, or President Trump. The base would mark the first large-scale military installation on Israeli territory. And it's potentially, for those who are looking at the broader context, reshaping the regional balance of power. Now, when there's been foreign troops, and indeed American troops involved, or any country's troops involved in other countries, for example in Afghanistan or Iraq, or indeed anywhere else, this has not always led to a good conclusion. And particularly, we're talking about the land of Israel, which God gave to the Jewish people, God gave to the Hebrew tribes. And it is a very disturbing development. Meanwhile, as I say, the Times of Israel recently reported that hundreds of US troops, that they're already here. It's not something, as I say, planned or thought about. They've moved into Kiryat Gat, and many Israelis have an unease about who is directing events in Gaza. I mean, who on earth now is in charge in Gaza? Now, somebody wrote to us and asked, could we give an opinion on some information that was coming out of Gaza? And I was saying that, well, first of all, journalists are not allowed into Gaza. And secondly, if a journalist can get into Gaza, despite the restrictions, he has to go with the IDF or be with troops. He can't just walk.
And he can't report what he sees
right,
personally.
and you have a censorship as to there is censorship operating, which you can understand. I mean, obviously, there's secrecy and security, etc., and that's understandable. But it does mean that journalists going into Gaza are restricted as to what they can report, and it's very concerning for a lot of Israelis, particularly those concerned with sovereignty, about what's happening in Gaza. And it seems to be a bit brushed under the carpet. We see it's almost like developments happen now, and you don't have chance to react. They are presented to you a bit like going to a restaurant where the food suddenly arrives and you don't have a chance to say, well, that's not really what I ordered, because the events are happening so quickly on the ground in Israel. Now, one of the other things that we've talked about a few times on the program, and perhaps many times, is that Israel is heading towards a cashless society. It's something that the government is promoting. And by the way, it's not hidden. There is actually government papers on the removal of cash. And the Israeli government is recently proposing to put further restrictions on holding cash. One of the interesting things is, and I think this is happening everywhere, so it's not just Israel. One of the interesting things is the cash dispenser, the old person who used to be in a bank, and you would go there and present a card or a check or whatever, they would give you cash. That's disappeared many moons ago. And now the only person you can get to speak to is a computer with the ATM at the entrance of the bank. That's what's happening in Israel. So if you want cash, you depend on that. And if you want to deposit cash, the same applies. You have to do it through a machine. You can't go into the bank with a wad of notes hoping that somebody will serve you. That's not going to happen. And so we're seeing more and more the restrictions coming into effect on cash, and indeed in shops. I was talking to a person in a shop, and they were telling me that most people are using cards, and it's actually unusual for them to have to deal with cash. So very often they don't have change. The reality is they don't have change. Now Israel is taking action to outlaw the possession of cash, Nathalie, in amounts higher than 200,000 shekels, which sounds a lot, but actually if you're buying a property or an expensive car or various things, isn't so much. Such a measure was proposed as part of the budget legislation of 2023-2024, and the proposal has now been reintroduced for the budget legislation, the Economic Arrangements Bill, and seeks to make possession of cash in excess of £200,000 a criminal offence. The limit, the bill says, will be implemented after a plan for the absorption of cash in banks. Currently, many restrictions applying to depositing cash in banks due to the rules of prohibition on money laundering. They're using money laundering as an excuse to destroy cash. That's it. The money laundering, which, by the way, isn't affected by all these regulations anyway, is purely an excuse for them to destroy cash. And by the way, the law, Nathalie, doesn't even say how they're going to bring into effect all these things. One lawyer...
Oh no, it's like almost criminal now to have some money.
Yeah. One lawyer, Yuri Goldman, explains this is the main problem. Those keep large sums of cash in a safe at home. You know, there's Israelis who feel more secure with cash than having a bank account. The bill to limit the 200,000 shekels in the past did not provide a solution to the people suddenly becoming criminals. If they had more than 200,000 in their safe, it means that they're now a criminal, whether they like it or not, or whether they chose to be or not. Another problem is how it's going to be enforcement is going to be carried out, because it's actually the Israeli tax authority who is in charge of conducting the checks on whether you have 200,000 or not. And sometimes people hold cash innocently. You might find an elderly person who saved money cash over many years, or a person who has received wedding gifts. Weddings in Israel, many people deposit or give an envelope with cash into the bride and the groom. And what happens if they have more than 200,000, which is possible, very possible in Israeli weddings. And also, if people have money hidden under the bed, what happens about that? More than 200,000.
It's quite interesting, because if you see, the government should be an agent to serve you, and the bank was also an agent to serve you, to look and save your money. But it's not like that anymore.
And Nathalie, you've got some things with us to share today.
Yeah, I mean, when you were speaking about what was happening in Gush Etzion and Judea and Samaria, I was doing some research, and I wanted also to speak about that. And so, as I said to you, for you to know, when we speak about Samaria, Judea and Samaria, Judea is south of Jerusalem, Samaria is the north, and there is, by the way, there was a beautiful road, or still beautiful, but unfortunately it's not always safe there because of the trouble with the Palestinians and, I mean, I will say the Arab people. And so when you take this road, there is terror attacks on it. But it was called the Road of the Patriarchs because it was the road that Abraham took, and Isaac and Jacob and few, and the family, I will say, and is from the north of the country to the south, because you have the sea on one side, you have the valley, the Jordan Valley on the other side right now. It's not all Israel that God promised, but this is what is how it is right now. And so in the middle, you have the mountain, which is called the Mountain of Israel. So when you read, and we are going to read together, because I don't know if everybody has a Bible. As the program goes all around the world, I want to make sure that the people, I'm going to read this passage because it's just amazing. We don't want to do politics, we want to do the Bible and speak about what's happening here in Israel, to report. So now I'm going to report from the Word of God, which is what He has given us. And listen to that, because it's very interesting. I will do some few inserts when I read it. So it's from Ezekiel 36. And listen to that. So, Son of man, prophesy to the mountain. So this is the Spirit of God who is speaking to Ezekiel, who call him Son of Man. And he said, prophesy to the mountain of Israel, not to people. He said to the mountain of Israel, which is very interesting. By the way, saying that, when we came here in Israel many years ago, we were going into the south, Judea, And I don't know, I think we are more connected to Judea than Samaria. We love both, but like every time that we pass there is a tunnel coming out of Jerusalem going to Judea. Every time I'm like, oh, I love that. It's like, you feel you are back home. And so we're going down that road many years ago, and it was between, funny enough, Ephrat, which is the big junction of Gush Etzion, where they had yesterday again a terror act, and Hebron, so it's like south. And there we were in one place, and it was like the mountain was speaking to me and saying, I'm waiting for my children to come back. I will remember that all my life because it was so strong. And I was like, the mountain is speaking. It's like the land is speaking, saying, I want my children back. So you see here, now is the prophet is the Spirit of God who is speaking to the mountain of Israel. So you can see this relationship. And when we are here, we can see is a very special land. We call it the Holy Land, not for nothing. It's because it's the Holy Land. There is a holiness in this place that is not in any other places. Every places have something special, but this land is extra special, I would say. So, Son of Man, prophesy to the mountain of Israel and say, O mountain of Israel, hear the word of the Lord. This is what the sovereign Lord says. The enemy say to you, the Ashen heights have become our possession. Therefore prophesy and say, this is what the sovereign Lord say. Because they ravaged and hunted you from every side, so that you became the possession of the rest of the nations. And you see how the UN is always pushing. They don't want to say that Judea and Samaria is part of Israel, is disputed lands. I mean, no. What the Word of God is saying, this is God's place, it's His land, okay? And is the object of people's malicious talk and slander, okay? And this is not just to the Jews or to Israel, it's to God. Mm-hmm. Because, by the way, say this is His land, okay? I know it's the land of Israel because He gave it to them, but He said this is my land, okay? This is my property. Therefore, O mountain of Israel, hear the word of the sovereign Lord. So He's sovereign, okay? He's the boss. He's the one who says so. This is what the sovereign Lord says to the mountain and hills, to the ravines and valleys, to the desolate ruins and the deserted towns that have been plundered and ridiculed by the rest of the nations around you. This is what the sovereign Lord say. I mean, you see how often He say, hey, this is me speaking now. In my burning zeal, I have spoken against the rest of the nations and against all Edom. Edom was like Esau was the one who was against Jacob. Didn't want what is happening. I mean, didn't want the land to be given to Jacob. For with glee and with malice in their hearts, they made my land their own possession, so that they might plunder its pasture land. Therefore prophesy concerning the land of Israel, and say to the mountains and to the hills, to the ravines and valleys. And I tell you, we've been to Tiberias, we've been traveling from Jerusalem to Tiberias, and again there was this road. There is the mountain road, the road 60. We don't take this one, it's quite dangerous. There is the road of the Jordan Valley, which is the number 90. We took it a few times, and I said, well, we know that there is a valley between, a road between, let us find it. And we find it, it's called the road, Allen Road, and it's going through Samaria, because we are north Tiberias is north of Jerusalem, and full of beautiful hills who are deserted. There is few few places who've been cultivated, but it's a lot of hills who are still, who can see it, that it could be pastured land, but right now it is very rare. There is few, but not very much at all. And we have to think, so a long time ago, when you read in 2 Kings 2, you see the story of Elijah, and there is some young boys who are mocking him, and he say, "Who are you, bald head?" And God is not happy. And there is 2 female bears who are coming out of the forest. So it means that there was forest at that time, and the bear attacked 42 children. I mean, sorry, young people. It wasn't children, young people. So this is interesting. So you can see that there was a lot of forest in Israel, and it needs to be, they've done already a lot of work, but I can tell you there is still a lot of places you can have trees. And when you have trees, the wind is not so strong, so the soil is starting to be different. Then you have birds who come, then it's attracting the clouds. You know, it's like a whole change when you start to have trees on the land. So, and we see it in a certain area, Tekoa, Nogdim is like changing into desert before, and now it's habited. But there is a lot of places, you know, when people say, well, Israel is little, there is some places who are very full of people, but there is places who are still very deserted.
Well, it's been great to be with you today. Thank you so much for joining us. Don't forget the website. Visit the website, which is www.israelfirst.org. There's a lot of information there. You can see a daily news story. You can sign up for the weekly update. You can support us, which is very important, because it's because of your support that we're able to come into your home today. And you can watch the program at a time that's convenient to you. So so do visit the website, and do please consider supporting us, because it's because of that we're able to reach the nations with what's going on behind the scenes, Nathalie, in Israel. And don't forget, we're the program that looks at the land, the people, and the language.